10 face-changing knockouts in boxing history. Number 10, Foreman vs. Frazier. Joe Frazier went into the ring as an undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, 29-0 with 25 knockouts. When he lost in the U.S. Olympic trials in 1964, the Philadelphia boxer hadn't lost in almost 10 years. People thought he couldn't lose with his strong chin and devastating left hook. Frazier, on the other hand, came back from the Caribbean a broken shell of himself. 6 times in less than 2 rounds he was knocked down, and Howard Cosell's famous cry, "Down goes Frazier! Down goes Frazier!" echoed through the night and into boxing history. Each of George Foreman's knockouts was a unique display of power that the sport had never seen before. A right hook, a right uppercut, a 4-punch combo, a straight right, a left hook, and then a right-handed half-hook, half-uppercut that lifted the 214-pound Frazier clean off his feet and gave the title to the challenger. Number 9, Taylor vs. Chavez. Meldrick Taylor put on a great show for 11 rounds. With a lot of hooks, punches, and straight rights, he had big points advantage. In the last round, all he had to do was stay out of trouble for 3 minutes. The legendary cornerback Lou Duva also tried to get him to change his mind. Taylor missed his goal by 2 seconds because the fighter Julio Cesar Chavez kept after him. Round 12 was almost over, and Taylor was behind by 6 points on one card and 5 points on another. Chavez knocked Taylor out with a straight right to the jaw, and the 1984 Olympic gold medalist collapsed in a neutral corner. Taylor woke up when someone said 5, but he was too sick to go on. The way the referee Richard Steele stopped the fight is still one of the most controversial endings in boxing history. Chavez's record is now 69-0, and he's knocked out 56 opponents. Ring Magazine called it the fight of the decade. Number 8, Fulmer vs. Robinson II. Sugar Ray Robinson and Gene Fulmer fought 3 times, and each won once and tied once. The second is known as a classic because it features what many people think is the best left hook ever thrown. Fulmer gave up the barroom brawler style that had helped him win the first fight and instead tried to match Robinson's speed. Fulmer started round 5 by putting pressure on Robinson, but Robinson stopped him with 2 hard blows to the body. Fulmer's guard was knocked out by the second punch, which let Robinson go upstairs. He whistled a left hook to the jaw as flashbulbs went off and people in the stadium cheered. Fulmer fell over and hit the floor. He didn't remember that he died a few minutes later. He wanted to know what was going on. The short answer was, they counted to 10. With this win, Robinson got his 140th victory and 91st knockout. Number 7, Moorer vs. Foreman. In the 1970s, when George Foreman held the heavyweight title, he was not the same fighter. He was a famous salesman and a minister. He was 45 years old and weighed 250 pounds. As a boxer, he'd become a novelty act, but he still had the atomic right hand that he used decades ago to destroy the division. Michael Moorer was a 3-1 favorite when he stepped into the ring, and his pay was more than twice as much as Foreman's. As expected, he won the first 9 rounds by throwing his right jab at Foreman over and over again. Before the fight, most people thought the only way Foreman could win was by getting knocked out. But in the 10th round, Foreman became the oldest heavyweight champion in history. He won back the title he'd lost 20 years earlier with a thunderbolt right hand aimed between Moorer's gloves. Moorer knelt in a neutral corner and prayed as his team ran to help their downed fighter. Number 6, Ali vs. Foreman. People call Muhammad Ali's fight in the Rumble in the Jungle his coronation. He got back the throne he'd lost when he quit the army and started a new part of his long and successful life. Few people thought he would win. Some people were worried about the life of 32 years. George Foreman, who was 25 years old and had 24 knockouts in a row, including a scary 6 knockdown KO of Joe Frazier, came into the fight as the favorite. On the other hand, Ali had a plan to make the power puncher weaker. He leaned back against the ropes of the ring and told Foreman to hit him hard. This became known as the rope-a-dope move. Foreman fell for it, and by the middle of the battle, he was completely worn out. In round 8, Ali attacked while he was hiding. Foreman was looking for several peppering rights. As Foreman moved slowly toward Ali, Ali turned away and landed a powerful left uppercut that made the champion's chin go up. The next move was a cutting right that hit like a falling brick, twisting Foreman as he landed in an awkward way. Ali raised his right fist, ready to strike again in the African night. It wasn't important. Number 5, Schmeling vs. Lewis II. World War II was about to start, so the Warriors' second meeting was a big deal from a political point of view. Max Schmeling didn't join the Third Reich, but that didn't stop him from becoming a symbol of Nazi Germany. Joe Louis was a very well-liked character in the United States among both black and white fight fans. The Brown Bomber got his first professional loss back in front of 72,000 people at Yankee Stadium, including movie stars like Clark Gable and Gary Cooper, and millions more who listened in on the radio in their own homes. The German was easy for Louis to get rid of. He knocked him down 3 times. When Schmeling was knocked down for the last time, his trainer threw a towel into the ring when the count reached 3. Louis has hit his opponent 31 times. Schmeling only had 2 hits. He was in the hospital for 10 days because his spine was broken, officially the 3rd and 4th lumbar vertebrae. He went back to Germany and almost stopped being seen. Louis held the title for a long time and was famous in the US for a long time. Number 4. Hearns vs. Hagler. The middleweight showdown called The War lived up to its name. Most people agree that the first round, which was a street fight with gloves on, was the best 3 minutes in boxing history. Whether it was because of the build-up, personal animosity, or ego, the fighters didn't care about safety once the battle started. The next 8 minutes were pure anger. Thomas Hearns, who is 6 feet 2 inches tall, hit first, cutting Marvin Hagler, who's 5 feet 9 inches tall, in the head. But the man who had legally changed his first name to Marvelous hit back with a torrent of leather. Hagler went for the kill in round 3 because he didn't want a doctor to stop the fight because of the cut. He gave Hearns a short left and a right to the head. The hitman stumbled backwards and each step showed his legs were weak. As Hearns fell to the ground, Hagler ran up and hit him with a right-hand cross and then, just for good measure, a left-hand hook. Hearns had to be helped back to his corner, and it took him a few minutes before he could stand up on his own. Number 3. Tyson vs. Douglas. Mike Tyson looked tired from the start of the fight, which took place on a Sunday morning in Japan so that people in the United States could watch it on a Saturday night. Buster Douglas, who was a 42-1 underdog, won the fight with a hard left jab, even though his opponent was 12 inches taller. In round 8, Tyson showed how strong he was when he knocked Douglas out with a right uppercut, but the challenger made it past the count. In the next round, Douglas hit Tyson with a solid left that spelled disaster. Midway through the 10th round, Douglas threw 6 straight left jabs at Tyson as he was coming toward him. He then woke him up with a stunning right uppercut. After a flashy 1-2 combo, Tyson was about to fall, and as he started to tilt, Douglas rushed forward with a crushing straight left. The way Tyson fumbled for his mouthpiece and pushed it sideways before being counted out in a trance showed that an era was coming to an end. The fight is still talked about as one of the most shocking upsets in sport history. Number 2. Marciano vs. Walcott. 11 months after knocking out the legendary Joe Louis, Rocky Marciano fought for Jersey Joe Walcott's title. In the locker room afterward, he wept when he saw the ex-champ. Even though he was old, Walcott was still a strong boxer who had everything he needed. In the first round, he knocked down Marciano with a left hook. This was the first time the Brockton Blockbuster had been knocked down. Marciano, who was looking for a knockout, showed Walcott the punch he'd named Susie Q after his small wife. At 30 seconds into the 13th round, Marciano backed up Walcott and landed one of the most damaging punches in boxing history, a short overhand right to the side of Walcott's chin. In an instant, the title was changed. Walcott got down on his knees and hooked his left arm over the middle rope. He then fell forward on the canvas. Legendary sports photographer Herb Scharfman took a picture of the KO that became known as the hardest punch of all time. Marciano was the first heavyweight champion in history to retire with a perfect record of 49-0, which is now a myth. Number 1. Ali vs. Liston 2. The second fight was a rematch of the legendary night in Miami, Florida, when champion Sonny Liston was knocked out by a young man named Cassius Clay, who was still going by his old name at the time. This made Clay a boxing star and a cultural icon, and made him the 1960 Olympic champion. One of the most famous images in sports is of Muhammad Ali standing over a downed Sonny Liston and telling him, "Get up and fight, sucker!" Ali hit Liston with a lightning-fast right punch called the Phantom Punch. Liston weighed 218 pounds. People thought Liston, who had ties to organized crime, had killed himself because the wound was so small and hard to see. Close inspection in slow motion showed that it was a chopping counterpunch to Liston's pawing left-hand jab. Liston's marching into the hit made it even stronger. Ali's right hand was low and unstable to strike as the historic event began, but he lifted it just as Liston missed, put his back foot down for a moment, and then moved his 210-pound, 6' 3" body forward. He hit Liston's left cheek with his right hand. As Ali teased his falling opponent, the dangerous brawler and ex-con went down, flipped over on his back, and stayed flat, looking blankly and twitching his eyelids. Thank you so much for watching this video.